It's The Local Show on News Radio 570 WSYR, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Gettys Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show is locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and welcome in. This is hour number 2 of The Local Show. Get ready for some engaging interviews with attorney John Murphy. He's brought a friend along. It's Marie. Away, Marie. Away, Marie. She'll be. They're both from Safe Harbor.
It's not Maria, is it? It's Marie.
No,
it's
Marie.
Marie. Okay, just to be clear.
The song is Away, Marie, too. Okay, owner of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts right there. And then we're going to talk with Doug Lalone. He's the owner of The Preserve at 405 Restaurant. And then Kim O'Brien from Speed Pro CNY, all in hour number 2 right here on The Local Show. We're broadcasting from the Zoey Advertising Studio, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Gettys Federal Savings and Loan. We're also on YouTube. If you look us up on YouTube, you can see this whole, what I like to call, fiasco on YouTube in full Technicolor. Remember Technicolor, Steve?
I do. I love Technicolor.
Mm-hmm. What was the difference between regular color and Technicolor?
It was very saturated. It looked like, if anybody was involved in photography, it looked like a Cibachrome.
Oh, okay.
So a Cibachrome was a print made
everybody
directly
knows
from a
that.
slide. It's a positive, saturated. The Hammer films, remember the Hammer horror films?
Absolutely
They
not.
were done in Cibacolor.
Yes.
And Cibachrome, and they had that whole Technicolor
But yeah,
look.
that big deep, like
Yeah,
where
the reds were red.
ruby red lips
You're
look
good.
really ruby red. Yeah,
It
that
was
kind of
fabulous.
stuff. Well, great. So just pretend. Don't go over that. Attorney John Murphy, right now, owner of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. Thank you for being here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and I'm learning about ancient history. This stuff wasn't around when I was a kid.
No,
But Steve is old enough to tell us all about it.
Steve was around when the
film
original
was filmed.
Wizard of Oz
Yes.
was black and white. Exactly. And you brought a friend, and it's Marie. Marie, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Say your last name for us.
It's Tricarico.
Isn't that great? She's Italian. You brought her on just for me.
Just for
we're
you.
townspeople.
We could talk about
Always
sauce and all sorts of good stuff.
That's right.
You're kind of the right-hand person. Why don't we give a little history of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts? I'm going to do something a little different. We're going to shake it up here. Marie, when did you join John?
So I started in August of 2013.
Okay. And what did you do before that?
Many different things. So my background is I was a software engineer. I went to school for software engineering.
Wow.
Worked at GE in Syracuse, and then became, I worked at GE, which then became Martin Marietta, which then became Lockheed Martin. So 3 companies sitting at the same desk.
Goodness.
And then I left when I had my first son to become a stay-at-home mom.
Uh-huh.
And I was a stay-at-home mom for several years, and then I did some work for the YMCA. I created their first website,
Okay.
and I
Awesome.
did that. Yep. And then I, as my kids got older, I, did things at the Y with them and worked part-time and stuff, and worked at helping people with bereavement and doing things like that. And
Pretty incredible.
at one
So
point,
were you always good with science and math? Is that it all through high
I guess
school?
so. My dad was he had a physics degree, but he was a programmer and doing the computer science. So I guess I sort of followed in his footsteps.
That's amazing because, you don't see enough women in the STEM. Now they're starting to do, STEM, but in the old days you didn't see that.
Well, I was, the punch cards.
Yeah,
so that was
right.
before laptops, before all that stuff.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's fine.
During Technicolor.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So John, you must have seen something in her skill set.
Well, we don't have quite enough time to go into our whole history. But suffice it to say, I learned a lesson because my initial impression was, what does an engineer bring to a law firm?
Right.
Okay. And I was mistaken because what Maria's brought and her way of thinking, which is different than many lawyers, is systems, processes, how do we get done what we get done, and how do we transfer that into a benefit for our clients. And it really has made all the difference in our law firm. Everything we do has a system. Everything we do has a process. And I don't say this negatively because I used to practice like this. Most lawyers will tell the clients, I'll call you when it's done. When you become a client of ours, we will tell you when it's going to be done, and we'll map out that schedule with you.
Very nice.
Okay, so nothing gets lost in the sauce, right?
Right.
A lot of law firms, the file you're going to work on, the irate client calls, the judge calls, and suddenly there's things that move to the top. With our systems and processes, which Marie and the team have developed, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, tell us how you went from a general practice attorney to focusing on estate law.
I failed. My mother-in-law had come to ask me to help get her mother on Medicaid. Her father, my wife's grandfather, had just died. The grandmother was in a nursing home, and my mother-in-law came to me and said, we had no idea this was costing this much money. Can you help get Mom on Medicaid? I said, sure. How tough can Medicaid be? You know, I mean, it's right for poor people. How tough can it be? How hard can it be? Yeah. And I got into it, and I'm a lawyer, and I thought I could do it. My mother-in-law thought I could do it. I had no idea what I was doing. Things I knew to be true in the real world were not true in Medicaid. Mm-hmm. So the one I always use is, most people know there's an amount of money you can give away every year.
Right.
Currently, it's $16,000 to as many different people as you want, and the IRS doesn't care. But if you applied for Medicaid, they care very much, and they will withhold a benefit for you. And I had to bow out and really humble myself, not only professionally, but personally, right? Within my family. I can't help. I got to find somebody else. And my wife's grandparents had their own businesses. My parents had their own business. I saw a lot of my parents and my family and what was happening with my wife's grandparents.
Right.
And I said, and it was 9/11, you know, all that time. And it was just time for me to make a choice. I was sick of helping people fight over their kids when, you know, that should be their commonality. I did a lot of divorce work. So I made the change. I decided I want to help out people protect their home and life savings for their families. And that's what we do. And Marie and our team have really brought that to the next level in how we do what we do. And actually, Marie has become a guest expert in a national organization that we're on. They ask her to come in every once in a while and speak to other law firms about process.
Really?
Yes.
What's that all about? Can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure. So basically what this organization is they're really trying to teach attorneys to become entrepreneurs. They're trying to teach them, you know, how do you mesh work and life, and also and how can you do things more efficiently, more effectively. And so one of the ways is process, right? So many people, I know John mentioned when I came in, you know, they were doing a Medicaid application. I'm like, oh, how do you do this? And he's like, well, we just do it. And I'm like, oh, I don't just do stuff. I don't know how to just do.
Where's the door?
Exactly. I'm like, I do not know how to just do. So that's where we came up with the processes. So now there's a organization, like he said, and I will go on and help them to do that. And we start by doing something really simple, like how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? You know, well, you don't just throw the stuff together, right? You got to go, you know, make sure you have the bread and make sure you have all the products and then take them out and open the jar. And so there's all those different steps that you do to get to the end and how do you get there and stuff. So it's really fun, actually. I love doing it.
You know, Steve, you should listen to Marie.
She had me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
And Tom, if I can, we just do a Medicaid application has grown to the point where we submitted, now we weigh our Medicaid applications.
They're that big, huh?
Yep.
We had one that was over 30 pounds.
Yep.
Wow.
We submitted it, and Tammy, who's our director of Medicaid, got an email from that county and said, you should teach other lawyers how to do these applications.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Tammy also just got a call from another county asking her questions on what they need to do in certain situations because of how we do what we do.
Yep.
And a third county actually got a worker called Tammy. Again, Tammy's the front of this, and said, this is my first case, and my supervisor wanted me to have your file because of how well you organize things. She thought it'd be a good place to start.
That's high praise.
Wow.
It's gone from we just do it.
Yeah, too.
And briefly before the break, how does that help the client?
You're going to get eligible for Medicaid more quickly. There's not going to be as much back and forth after the application is submitted.
Right.
And we help preserve hundreds of thousands of dollars for clients when they thought, even though mom or dad might be in a nursing home, that all was lost.
Yeah.
It's not. We help people in a nursing home all the time.
That's attorney John Murphy right there, owner of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts, and we're also with Marie, who's his right-hand person over there and develops all the processes. We're going to talk more with them if you guys wouldn't mind sticking around a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, great. And we'll put on another pot of coffee and bring them back right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR. Stick around.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Back into it and back at it again. You found The Local Show on your weekend. It's the golden nugget of good talk radio right here, and we cover a lot of different topics with a lot of different people around town who have their own businesses or might be working for a local business. It's local, 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 and we've been talking with Attorney John Murphy along with Marie Tricarico, who is the DO over at Safe Harbor.
What is that exactly, Tom?
That's the Director of Operations.
Oh, so she's a big shot. Okay.
Yes, she is big.
Wait a second.
That didn't come out right.
I don't think that's what it is.
First he called me short, now he called me big. First time on, this is my initiation.
This is good.
Nice.
No, you're doing great.
My life was ruled by shorter Italian women, the matriarchs of our family. That's
Isn't that
for sure.
redundant?
That could be very true. But boy, my grandmother could yield a wooden stick and a ladle, and I learned fast. So we were talking about the processes that make it so easy for people to do business with Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. And I know from editing some videos of testimonials that people say that you are very transparent in the way that you describe things and explain things. So they always know where they stand. And even if they're not law experts, which, you know, when people come in, they don't always know what they're doing. Right. They know they need it, but they don't know exactly,
right.
You know,
right.
The processes and things. And they say it's just such a pleasant experience. So tell us a little bit about your team, Marie.
Sure. So usually what will happen is people come to us from one of two ways. Either they'll attend a workshop and they'll get educated there with John giving a presentation about 2 hours, or they'll call us on the phone and we'll talk to them and talk about what their case is, what their situation is, what they're hoping to achieve. So when they first come in, we have a little bit of background about them. We'll come in, we'll talk to them about what they're hoping to accomplish. That's how we'll start out. They'll usually meet with one of our case managers who've been trained by John. We go through everything with them, and we'll come up with what our recommendation is as far as how we should go forward. If they decide to go forward with us, then at that point, like John said, we will schedule all of their meetings. There's about 4 or 5 different meetings that we have. They'll come in next. At the next meeting, they'll meet with one of the attorneys, so either John or Michelle, who will go through, again, like what they're expecting to achieve, how we're going to go about doing that, who they're going to be leaving their stuff to. Then once we do that, the documents will all be drafted. We'll review them internally. After we review them, they will then come in and we'll go through each of the documents with them, just explaining. Instead of here's a stack of 16 documents, we'll explain what each document is, what it does. We'll highlight different things that they have to look at. They'll take those documents home. They'll review them at home. We'll then have a phone call with them to go over any questions they might have, any changes that might want to make at that point. Once we do that, then they'll come in for their signing meeting. That's the point where we'll sign all the documents, transfer any New York State properties into the trust that they have. Then they will leave. We'll go over some funding information with them. Then we will scan everything. They'll come back and we'll do a delivery. We give everyone their original documents as well as a certified copy. And we'll talk to them about funding their trust. And then they're with us for a year. It's called our CARE program, Continuous Access to Reliable Expertise. And for a year, they'll be able to come in for an appointment, call us, send us an email, whatever. There's no additional charge, and we're there to help them through, make sure the funding is done, make sure, if anything changes to their lives.
Yeah.
We always ask them to call us before you do anything. We'd rather have the call before you do something than call us after to ask if it was the right way to do it. So.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have a process.
So we have a process.
That is incredible.
That's the process for estate planning. We have a different process for Medicaid, but very
Right.
similar.
And Tom, to transparency, unless myself or Michelle have to go to court, our prices are fixed prices.
Right.
So there's no surprises. at the
Right,
end,
right.
Well, this was really hard to do, so you only need extra $500.
Yeah.
Well, no. So
Yeah.
they know up front, and we spread the fees out for estate planning through the process. We don't ask you to write a check up front. We don't get paid till our work gets done for that time period. So it works well for our clients.
Yeah. So Marie, what would you say to someone that said, well, trusts are for rich people?
I would say that's 100% not true.
Why?
Because what you have is what you have, right? So if I have a home, that's my thing. I feel like when people are trying to save their assets and leave it for their family, it's really what's emotionally important to them, not so much, right? So for me personally, I think of my house. My kids grew up in my house. You know, I had children there and everything. So I want to leave the house. I don't even care about the money part, really, right? The house is the house, and that's what I have, and that's what's important to me, so that's what I want to leave. So I think, you know, it's what you have is what you have, and what you feel important to you is what you want to leave for people.
My sister got all the Hummels when my mom passed. She's got the Hummels. I got nothing.
But did she keep the boxes? 'Cause it's
No, she didn't get that. There was no boxes. But they were straight from Germany. I don't know.
My God.
Now I see if my mother would have done it and, you know, mapped it all out,
That's
then
right.
maybe I would have got some of the
Well,
Hummels.
you
That's
must
right.
ask a lot of questions in this process.
100%. Yeah.
Like, who gets the Hummels? And I'm not even kidding. Sure,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Yep.
right,
Yep.
John?
As
Yeah.
detailed as the client wants to be. So
Yeah.
we just did a workshop. We had about 40 or 50 people on Monday, and a woman asked me if I could speak to her before the workshop. And I came out and talked to her. Said, you have to let people know. And she thought that she should be able to have the home, even if, you know, she'd buy her siblings out. But her mom didn't do a plan. Her mom never talked to anybody. There's nothing in writing about who should get what or who has priorities, right? I believe this so sincerely. The biggest gift that you can give to your children is that their relationship will continue after you're gone. And you can ensure that by having detailed plans. Don't leave in doubt what you want to happen. They could be mad at you about your choices, but you don't want them to be mad at each other,
Yeah,
right? Ambiguity is the worst thing that you can have when you're gone for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
we tell them that all the time. Like, even for a healthcare proxy, we'll say, you know, it's important that you write it down, because whether or not you agree with what the person wanted to be happening, you have agreed to do what they want to be done. And so your siblings won't argue with you, because you can say in black and white, this is what
Right.
mom wanted, and
Sure.
I'm doing this. You know, or being cremated or whatever. You have that
right.
right down.
And then what happens if people just let it ride and don't do anything?
In what respect? I mean, if you go to a nursing home, you could lose everything down to $28,133. If you go to court for probate, you didn't go to a nursing home, but you died, you know, the kids are going to share it evenly, but that may not be what you wanted, or they may fight over who's supposed to get what. You know, the less words in a will, the more room there is for interpretation.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what do lawyers do best? Interpret
for you.
Interpret it on your side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ambiguity, we can get really creative if the words are ambiguous.
So there's probably a lot of people who are listening right now that may have questions in their mind, and they should know by now that you guys are very communicative and easy to talk to. If they wanted to start a conversation and just ask a couple of questions, you going to charge them $500 an hour, or how's that work?
No, they're going to call and talk to a case manager first thing. Can we help you? And if we think we can, the case managers go through, these are your options, these are the fees, okay? If you want to come in, once you come in the door, we do collect a fee,
Sure.
okay? When you sign up for your plan, that fee goes towards your plan. So we use it as a down payment, okay?
But they could call to just,
Yep.
kind of
Yes.
say, hey, this is what we're thinking, and, we have some questions. Now, does the director of operations answer the phone, or is it, you got people for that?
We got people.
We got great people.
We got great people, yeah. We have our receptionist who answers the phone. Her name is Bridget. Normally she answers the phone. And she will get information from you, and if she'll schedule a time that a case manager could call the person back. So either somebody's available at that point, and one of us will talk to them, or if we're not, they'll schedule a time. So they know when we're going to call back.
Oh,
All right.
that's right. You had some things there. Do you want to talk? What?
So, real
Yes.
quick, what do you got?
So quickly, we try to do our part to give back to the community. We contribute to Golisano Children's Center, the Rescue Mission. We're raising assistance collecting for the rescue mission the next 2 months. They're looking for all kinds of things, toiletries, travel-sized toiletries, gift cards to Dunkin' Donuts for $5. If you are so inclined, you can drop by our office at 6702 Buckley Road between 9 and 5, and we have a collection box right there if you'd like to help out people who are really trying to move ahead and get back into society where they could be productive members. So if you want to drop off something to help some people, we're open. If you're not sure what to bring, call our office.
Yeah,
We'll
right
tell
near
you.
7th North Street, just right up Buckley, right there near 7th North.
Excellent. That's Attorney John Murphy, owner of Safe Harbor Wills and Trust, Director of Operations, Marie Tricarico. Thank you so much for being here, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
Coming up next, we're going to talk with Kim from Speed Pro. She's an account executive over there. We'll learn all about their business on the local show on 570 WSYR.